Hello everybody, this is Hobby. I thought I would make a video because I have a bit of motivation recently, and I would refer to this tweet that RPD made that I replied to, and mention Tigres, which I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with. You can look them up at Tigres, UPSB I believe. Yeah, this guy right here. But Tigres, I've known him for a while. He made the Small Talk series, and I've just been feeling like I need to make more content that's easier and like lower barrier to entry. So here RPD says, this was November, like a little while ago. He said he really wants to continue making tutorials, but he doesn't know how to find time. So this is why I'm kind of thinking in this way, because I said, I've been feeling like I need to follow my motivation and a lot of stuff. Because Tigres I really respect what Tigres does in terms of how he did this Small Talk series, because he can just talk, he gets stuff done, he says his piece, right? And he gets it out there. And it doesn't need to be so complicated. And so that's kind of what I'm doing today. So the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit is because of this tweet. So Chris Wee, who I've talked to quite a bit, he just tagged me here because the moment someone asks about something aesthetic wise. But Saltien, who is a world tournament competitor, he's known for all this sort of flexibility and also just all this crazy flexibility stuff that he displayed in World Tournament in the past year. And so he's asking, for those in the aesthetic side of pen spinning, are there any more interesting ways that people have done thumb flap charge than other than INO? So I basically replied a couple things. So here's the simple answer. The common ones are from Toro and Seven. So I'll show you what the INO thing in a moment, but for example, I'll show you Seven here. So this is like back in a long time ago, right? So this is maybe, I can't remember exact dates, but because this is kind of when I started spinning, but I'm gonna say around 2010-ish was probably, or 2009-ish maybe, when Seven was doing all sorts of stuff. But like if you just watch this thumb flap charge, right? This is what I'm talking about, where it's like a very sudden, sharp movement. And it looks like he touches the table with it. And Mezzi does this too, as well. You might see Mezzi quite often in some of the old JB CVs. And Toro, which is another JB classic. This is more of the classic thumb flap charge you would see, right? And I talked about this in a blog post I did about some finger positioning types. But just wanted to show you that, right? So it's just a standard, like you spread out your fingers, pretty standard. But I mentioned that one of my favorites is from this UPSB spinner that I used to talk to a bunch. And it's because he does this really pretty sort of gradual fan kind of thing here. Look at that. Like it's really pretty. Right? So you do the thumb flap charge, and then you have the fingers slowly stagger as they close up. And just the way he does it, for some reason, every single time I used to watch him do this on Discord. It was more recently, very recent, but most of the time it was in Tiny Chat back in the day, or Skype. I would watch him do this. I'm just like, why does this look so good? And this is just like something that this person does really well. I don't see very many people do this type of thumb flap charge anymore. I think a more recent one, quote unquote recent, is Sponge from GPC. I looked at a solo actually before I made this post, and I found that Sponge's is actually worse than Iota's here. So I actually really like Iota's. It's not like the Sponge's thumb flap charge is bad or anything. It's just that I think Iota does it just a little bit more effectively. But let's talk about here the reason for the question. This combo right here, and that thumb flap charge right there. So you can look at the tweet a little bit more if you want to hear all my thoughts about it. But basically, this is like the very unique thumb flap charge that I know did back in that day. and I go ahead to talk about how if you have nicer fingers, I didn't mention nicer fingers, but in the tweet, but if you do have nicer fingers and you have like a decent understanding of finger positioning, you can kind of do like stuff that comes to you naturally and generally looks okay. Like if you look at this is Ebon, right? Which is known for like really nice refinement, nice fingers, all that. And I just remember this specific scrunchy finger catch. It's like for a brief moment in this CV, Echoes, which is a nice classic JB CV. You can go check it out as well. Yeah, it's just for a brief moment, because after he does a scrunchy catch, he just immediately does a peace sign, which is like just like you just briefly see the catch and then it's just gone, which is kind of funny, but it actually kind of works. It's such a weird hand position, but he makes it look okay. Okay, so that's it for this portion. I just wanted to briefly mention this, but actually, because I got motivated, I want to talk a little bit about a couple of other things. So Jewel, with this Twitter account, it says that I guess this person is following a different account. So this is the other account, I believe, and he's hosting a Jewel second. So if you're interested, you can join his CV. But anyways, I was talking to this person in DMs, and we were kind of chatting about some Korean pen spinners, like old school Korean pen spinners to watch. And I was interested because I wanted to kind of study and like kind of learn a little bit from what people's preferences are, and have them, I basically said in a tweet, like, explain to me why you like these spinners. And so it kind of helped give me a different perspective. I didn't know who this person was for a long time. I actually looked at this blog post, this reflection on past and future. It says they've been spinning since like 2008, all the way back in 2008, and that's crazy to me because I knew of this person, but I didn't know they've been around for so long. But anyways, we were talking about Korean spinners, and this topic of like enjoying flexible fingers came up. So let me show you some stuff here. So I'll show you what he kind of recommended me. So this is one of the spinners. It's Zien. If you keep in mind like the flexible fingers, right? Jewel seems to really like that kind of style with the finger movement and stuff. And it's not a really common thing we see nowadays, because everything's so perfect, especially when you look at JB nowadays. It's very perfect, refined, and like fingers are mostly straight for the most part. I mean, you still bend, but it's not like as wild as it is back then, and in like, you know, like over 10 years ago. And then here's White Tiger. Here's a more obvious combo. We can see the flexibility. Let me turn the music off. Really see it when they're stretching out, like really outstretching, right? You can see how the finger moves. And so I was talking to Jewel, and I recommended an old JB spinner, actually, Ken. And I really like this spinner because the spinner really has a really interesting like way they move their fingers. It's kind of like if you've ever seen Mart spin. It's like a toned down version of that. Like Mart like stretches out his fingers all crazy. Ken has this kind of like gumminess is what I call it. When I was talking about it, it's kind of, I would encourage you to look up and watch some of these videos and solos and stuff, because some of these videos are going to be compressed to hell when this gets on YouTube. But like Ken has this way of like having this sort of like sticky, like gummy like feeling with the fingers, and yet the pen that's moving still remains smooth, which is very cool. Especially in this combo here, you can see how his fingers kind of move kind of a little bit wildly, almost like a rubber band under tension or something like that. It's hard to explain, but it's just a really interesting effect, and it's just not something you see very often anymore. I feel like people were less perfect in a way back then, and they just wanted to have more individuality in the sense of like what aesthetics were. They were just kind of experimenting with it. And this stuff is always cool to me, watching older spinners. Fast forward another 10 plus years, there's this person in GPC called Noishi. I've talked to this person quite a bit, and I remember talking to Tigres about this, and Noishi's spinning has a very similar effect, as you'll notice. kind of reminds me of Ken. That's the immediate thing it reminded me of. But it just this feeling that the fingers are moving, like maybe more than the pen in some ways, and somehow the spinning is still smooth. Like usually when you see fingers that are moving too much, and the spinning is like moving slower, generally that's like an effect that's, I feel like, is not as desirable for the most part aesthetically, because it gives you the sense that you're struggling to spin, right? I think the reason why we favor like a good shutter speed where it's not like skipping, you know, where it's more like smoother like this where you can see the motion blur, is because you want to be able to see the motion. You want to be able to have the illusion that your fingers and hand are barely moving, and the pen is almost like it's spinning itself, right? And this is like a guest because, you know, Noishi and Tigris know each other, yeah, it's just that interesting kind of idea where kind of the movement of the fingers, right? And this is not something that Noishi, you know, I don't think Ken, I don't think Right Tigers, all these people, I don't think these people actually did this intentionally. But it's one of those things where certain finger like movements and things come naturally to people. And I guess that's kind of this sort of theme of this video, is just the idea of that certain things that come naturally, you can utilize it, right? Like you shouldn't always try to minimize sort of the individual characteristics that you might have. And so it's really about understanding what finger positioning is, what looks good, having an eye for it, while knowing what your strengths are, knowing what to keep, what not to keep, and that makes you a better spinner because you know where your strengths are, right? So it's just such a cool kind of like effect that I feel like isn't really talked about, and you don't really see it too often, right? You see it in some spinners maybe, but it's just not common to see it in aesthetic spinning, something like this, right? Yeah, I don't know. If you have any spinners that you know of that have this kind of gummy-ish effect, or if you have any spinners that you know of that have an interesting way of using thumb flap charge, feel free to comment below. That's going to be it for me for now. I thought I would talk quickly while I still have motivation here. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day. It's almost the holidays, so I hope you guys have a great holiday. Merry Christmas if you celebrated, all that great stuff. Have a happy new year. I don't know if I'm going to make any more videos in the future. That's just how it goes with me. I don't know how consistent I am. It just goes by motivation. So have a great one, guys, and take care. Bye.